to a short stay. Handle biz, no foreplay.
Uptown Radio, WJYN 90.5 FM. This is a little quick exclusive with Grandmaster Caz. One of the he was there when it all started, man. So what was the energy like back in the day, like when that was all started? Like, because you guys did everything. Listen, somebody's calling the text request line. This is the worst time to call the text request line.
I want to talk to you, Caz.
Stop. Well,
So good.
all right. So take us back real quick. Let's talk about the energy. What was the foundation? What was the sparks? Let's talk about the sparks that really set this thing off.
Well, basically, most of us youngsters were trying to emulate the older DJs who played at the block parties back in the mid to early 70s. Kool Herc being our biggest inspiration. Later on, Africa Bambaataa, and then Grandmaster Flash, and a lot of other local DJs in the neighborhoods. And us being the young shorties who couldn't get into Kool Herc's parties, we had to wait until he played outdoors. And in the summertime, when the DJs played outside, that's when the next generation of hip-hop picked up the ball and ran with it.
Now let's talk about like back with the routines, because we came from like the soul era where people would get out on the street corner and like sing and hymn together, and then like the early hip-hop era, guys would just get out and just rehearse routines together. So what was that all about? Like, what was that like? Because people really nobody's really out here rehearsing routines anymore.
Well, there was a group mentality back in the days. There were more crews together, 3, 4, 5 sometimes, maybe 6 MCs in a group. So it takes a long time for everybody to get on individually and just say rhymes. So the routines and the harmonies started happening early on, and that's what led to those harmonies that you heard later. That's kind of translated even now to today. The guys are just using auto-tune to get that melodic sound, whereas we did it in like 4 and 5 part harmony.
All right, too young to get into the party, out on the streets, doing your thing. Talk about some of the crowds y'all drew on the streets by like the red light. You know what I'm saying? Like at the corners, like what were them crowds like that came out to see real hip hop?
Crowds are crazy. It was like a parade, man. You could be walking down any street in the summertime and just see a bunch of people all walking in the same direction, and right away you knew they're headed towards a jam. And the closer you got to the park, you started hearing the music like a couple of blocks away. Heart started beating a little faster. Your steps, your step gets a little faster, and the anticipation of just entering that park, man, and becoming part of cultural history.
How big was the sound? Like how far away could you hear it from?
Depends on the DJ sound system. You know what I mean? A lot of times the acoustics had to do with the neighborhood where you were playing at. Most DJs you could hear at least 2 to 3 blocks away from wherever the party was going on. And if you had an even more impressive sound system, 5 or 6.
What were some of the best parties or events that you went to?
Well, in the early days, the block parties, you really set it off. But then when parties started going indoors, they were at places like community centers and little hole-in-the-wall spots. And some of those spots were some of the best parties that happened. They coined the phrase hip-hop in a little small hole-in-the-wall spot in the Bronx. Okay, the reason why this culture is called hip-hop came out of a little spot in the Bronx, the Black Door. You know what I mean? And then the parks gave birth to everybody being able to be involved and see the culture for themselves.
Absolutely. Uptown Radio, WJYN 90.5 FM. We're doing a quick little interlude with Grandmaster Caz up in the building. So let's just talk about like what was the first time that you jumped on the microphone, and how long did it take? Like, all right, before you even jumped on the microphone, before you even got up to the stage, what was the first? What was that period where like you're like, all right, I'm gonna get up there, and then how long did it take you to get up there?
Well, I was a DJ.
Okay.
I started out as a DJ. Well, as a b-boy, actually. I used to go to parties and dance, and after a while, I started looking around, like everybody's dancing, but only one person is DJing. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to be the person dancing.
Right.
I want to be the person making people dance. So when I came to that conclusion, I went about trying to find equipment, get my equipment together, and start playing music. The microphone came into play because every DJ needed a mic to make announcements. Those announcements started getting embellished, and after a while they became rhymes, chants, call and response, and now rap as we know it today.
Now you guys have traveled the world, and like we're big on like traveling, even in this restricted era. What was your favorite place that you traveled to?
I have to say Tokyo. Tokyo, we went to Japan after the Wild Style movie came out, and that was our first tour. We went to Tokyo, Japan, and it was amazing. We introduced the culture of hip-hop to Japan. So I think that was the most memorable for me.
Now, that sounds amazing because, I like a little history. Tokyo is like very not with new things. So for you guys to get accepted into Tokyo, like, that's amazing.
I think it's just the opposite. Tokyo are innovators of new things. They had things going on there that we had no idea about back here in the States. They had things that were so technologically advanced that they didn't get to the States until much years later. So when they first saw hip-hop, they were so intrigued by it. By the time we left, they had started adopting the culture. The clubs we went to that looked at us crazy when we took the rubber mat off the turntable and put a slip mat and then started scratching. By the time we left Japan, we went back to those clubs and they were doing that. So we were sort of ambassadors for the culture and they picked it up right away.
All right, absolutely. I got one more question for you. It's a little heavy, you know what I'm saying? But, we're living in times when, like, everyone is, like, mad at everyone. And one thing that I really loved about hip-hop is, from my perspective, coming into it, I think it brought people together. Like, what do you think hip-hop has done for, like, relations and, bringing communities together across the globe?
I mean, you just said it. If there's anything that hip-hop has done and empowered people financially, it's giving people direction, it's giving people discipline, it's giving people character, and all of those things. But I think the most important thing that hip-hop has done, beyond everything else, is brought the world together under one common bond.
I say helping important people help other people. That's my hip-hop acronym. Uptown Radio, WJYN 90.5 FM. We're here with Grandmaster Caz. I'm going to let him sign himself out. We got about 10 minutes left of records to play. But you have anything you want to shout out, or what do you have going on currently?
I'm just here with my girl, Janine Butler. We're trying to empower the hip-hop community in the world and broaden their thinking as far as being politically involved, politically inclined, and getting the best out of the people who we voted to these offices to do things. It's like you don't just give your vote away, okay? You give your vote to the person that's going to give you something back. And kind of follow that ideology moving forward. So I'm just here to support my man Rob Schwartz, who man, you know what I mean? We're going to be doing things. Glad I caught up with him. And I think things happen for a reason. So I'm just glad to be here. Appreciate you, bro. All right, and keep doing what you do.
Thank you so much. Uptown Radio, WJYN. That's Grandmaster Caz.